Hello and welcome back to Friday's version of Let's Talk Chicago Bears. How's everybody doing today? It's the Friday before the show on Sunday against the Vikings in Minnesota. And in my opinion, this game is a must-win for the Bears. Now, we haven't really had a must-win yet. Of course, you want to win all the games, but they lost the first game of the season to Minnesota because we were just not all together yet. Should have won the game, but we didn't. So it's pretty important to win at least 1 out of 2 against our opponents. We have lost to Minnesota and Detroit once each, so it would behoove the Bears to win at least once against all of these guys. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what's going to happen. I'll give you a little statistics. And first, I want to give a shout out to Fonzie in Tennessee, who watches me on Mondays and Fridays all the time. Hello, Fonzie. Aunt Lynn here. So let's get to it. So the Vikings and the Bears have played 129 times. They have one postseason game together, with Chicago winning 58 and Minnesota winning 69, and we have 2 ties. So clearly, they are ahead of us. So let's start changing that narrative this week, right? But first, I want to go over a few things before we get into the statistics of the game. Some things that I read in the week between last week's game and this week's game. Some about the Giants game. Some stuff that the Ben Johnson said. So Ben Johnson was talking about the game against the Giants, and he was talking about Caleb Williams and how he can elude the rush. And he compared him to the escape artist Harry Houdini. I mean, if you don't know him, look him up. He's very famous escape artist. So he was talking about, he said that it's just incredible what he did in that game against the Giants. And it was. I mean, but you also can't live by that. We know that. Johnson also told the reporters that it's a balancing act for Williams right now, which I get it, because it's a balancing act whether he should take off and run versus to remain in the pocket for an extra tick or two and then throwing the ball. So Williams is still learning that comfort zone to trust his offensive line when the line is caving in and he's in that narrow pocket. So he's still got that. He's got to learn, take off, or do I stay here and get that throw off successfully? So that's a big thing we're working, but it's getting better each week. We see it, but we don't want Williams living by the run, because we want him to learn to stand in the pocket and be a pocket passer, because that's really the most important. And that's what makes really good quarterbacks in the NFL, because if you look at the running quarterbacks, they just don't do well in the NFL. I'm sorry, they just don't. Some of them, Russell Wilson had early on, he did pretty well, but you see Murray in Arizona now, who is a runner and passer. He's a short dude. He's on, I don't know if, I have a feeling that Arizona's going to get rid of him. I was never really a fan of this guy, but he's another example of a runner. Now you've got the guy in the Ravens, who I can't think of his name right out off the top of my, Lamar Jackson, where he can do both, but when he came in the league, he was more of a runner than a passer. Now he's becoming a pocket passer, and he reverts to the run if he absolutely has to. So this is what we want Cabe to do, and this is what Johnson wants, but he's still in that learning curve. So it's real important to understand that. And then the coach also talked about how when he first came to the Bears, he had certain things that he wanted to turn around. And right now, step 1 is complete, he said. He said, he had a vision for the Bears when he became the coach, and one of them, as I said, has become into fruition, where the team is now playing. He wanted a team to play 60 minutes, and our team, as you can tell, the last 4 games are playing 60 minutes, and that's step 1 complete. Although we want to be, there's still more things about the 60 minutes. He said, we still haven't put the whole 60 minutes quite together, but there's 3 phases together. Ben said, the Bears are winning games late, and we can come back. We've proved them, and we also know now that we can coach these guys hard, and we can keep them, and we can keep depending, So step 1 to him is they're starting to play a collective 60 minutes. And that was one of the things he wanted. And now he believes we can coach these guys hard, and they're going to come out and play hard. And that's a really good thing. But we can't depend on the comebacks all the time. So what we need to keep doing now, what we need to do is get an early lead and keep it. And that's so important. So the Bears are making these little steps that Ben had in his mind when he became the head coach of the Chicago Bears. And we know that's true because we haven't seen it for years, right? When they're behind the last few years, that was it. We knew, game over. So he's right. He's bringing this team together each week. They're seeing new improvements. That's why, people, playoffs. Pump your brakes. We've got an extremely tough schedule coming up. I would love them to be 4-4 with this schedule. Of course, I'd like them to be better than that, but I would be thrilled with that in these next 8 games to be 4-4 because, playoffs are not, the Bears are not ready to make a playoff run. Even if, let's say, they got into the wild card, they will not win. They're not there yet. Unless all of a sudden, now Ben says in December, we're going to be playing our best football. Awesome. Now we're still in November. The middle of November, so we have some time to go. And there's some tough opponents coming up, so we'll see, right? And maybe he's right, but right now the feel I have is, again, I want him to be 500 and then just build off that for next year. And then in the offseason, as I've said many times, you pick up the few holes, especially the D-line, fill those holes, the backfield, some more help. And then, because the offense, we're pretty set. So that's what we got to do, right? Okay, so let's get into some statistics, and then we'll talk a little bit more. So the Bears, I always do this the Friday before. In the past, the Bears, out of the 32 teams, are averaging 232 passing yards a game. That puts them 11th in the league out of 32. Minnesota is averaging 197 yards. That put them 22nd. We win that one. This one shocked me. I almost fell off my chair. The Bears are averaging a rush of 147 right now a game. That puts them 2nd in the league. Can you believe it? I know. And I just want this to continue because, I preach. The 2 things I preach most, penalties and the rush game. The Minnesota is averaging 102 yards rushing, and that puts them 24th. So that's an advantage for our defense for sure. Points scored by the Bears, they have averaging 26 points a game. That puts them 7th in the league. Minnesota is averaging 22 points. That puts them 21 in the league, so we win that too. Here's where we lose for sure. Bears allow points allowed by the defense. They're averaging 27 points a game. We know that and more. That puts them 28th in the league. Minnesota is giving up defensively 23 points a game. That puts them 18. So they're better than that, but we beat them in all the other categories. Well, no, we don't. I take that. Yeah, we do. We beat them in pass, rush, and points scored. So let's continue that. So I'm doing a little bit different today. I'm not going to compare the quarterbacks because our quarterback has played every game, and I'm pretty sure that J.J. McCarthy is going to be in this game, and he hasn't played many games, so there's really no point. So I did it a little bit different today. I'm going to rank our offense and our defenses together, okay? So the Bears' offense, again, almost made me fall off my chair. I mean, when have you heard this? Where the Bears' offense is 3rd in the league, total offense 3rd. Minnesota is 24th. So again, that helps our defense providing the defense keeps playing like they have or better. And we don't want to give this young quarterback any, breathing room. We want to go after him. We want to keep that. Yards per game, they're averaging per yards per game, pass and run on the offense, 379 yards, the Bears. Minnesota's averaging 299, so we got them there. The Bears offense have scored 26 touchdowns to 21 touchdowns. And I'd really like to see that touchdown go up because remember, for many games, we were settling for too many field goals. So that for the turnovers we had in the past, we should have more touchdowns and we know it, and they're working on that. So that's a big thing they're working on. Last week it got better. So but you can see where we're going. Defensively, Minnesota's got us. Defensively, the Bears rank, not surprising, 27th out of 32 teams in the league, and Minnesota ranks 12th. They've got a very, very good defense. The Bears defense has 21 sacks total. Minnesota has 24 sacks, so they're leading there. The Bears are giving up defensively 375 yards between passing and running defensively. Minnesota's given up 317, better than us again. Bears have given up 29 touchdowns. Minnesota has given up 23 touchdowns. So, they're beating us in every category defensively, but the Bears got them on this category. The Bears have 13 interceptions with 7 fumbles and 7 fumble recoveries. Minnesota has 3 interceptions with 11 fumbles and 6 recoveries. So that's the only category we beat them defensively. Excuse me. So the Bears defense has to step up, and it just shows you that Minnesota's offense has been struggling because they've been going back on quarterbacks because J.J. McCarthy got hurt right away, and then their backups in, and then he went in again and they got hurt again. So that's why they're having problems establishing their offense right now. But their defense is really, really good, and I'm going to give you some more stats later on that. Which I actually should just give you now. Let's see. There they are. So, blitzing wise, Minnesota blitzes the most in the NFL. They blitz at a 44% percentage. With the Bears are 12th in blitzing, and they blitz only 26%. So, the defense. So basically, the defense, are going to be coming after Williams, because there's no doubt about it. They're going to blitz him it's going to seem like every play, because that's what they do. And the fact that, Williams is getting all this notoriety because he's escaping blitzes and defenses rushes, the defense on Minnesota, they probably are like, oh, we're stopping this guy. So Williams has really, really got to be on his game. And all the misses that he caused New York to do last week is not going to happen with Minnesota, guys. Minnesota is way better than New York on that. So I'm very concerned. I would love to see Williams standing back there, have more time to complete them, and do less running. I mean, if he has to, he has to. But we really don't want to live by that. But here's a good statistic on him so far. Williams is out of all the quarterbacks in the league, he's number 1 at the most missed tackles forced, meaning that he's by a quarterback this season, meaning he has, missed being sacked or knocked down 26 times. He has eluded the rush and made he just eluded the rush. Allen for the Bills is 17th. Baker Mayfield is from Tampa Bay is 17 times too, and Jason Dart from the Giants is 17. So those three have eluded the rush 17 times, but 26 by Williams. And here's a good stat. At this time last year, Williams had been sacked already 38 times, and at the end of the season, it was 68. He was sacked the most. Today, to date, he's been sacked 14 times. So that is a way better ratio. So that's a good thing. And that has a lot to do with the fact that we have a real offensive line. And they're going to get, I said in the beginning of the season, offensive line, they're one of the hardest parts of a team to really, they have to spend time and practice and on the field in the games together. They have to think each other's thoughts because they have to know what everybody's going to do. So that's the toughest unit to get together and really come. And then, of course, the defensive line is the second. But in my opinion, it's the offensive line. And they have showed. And, Darnell Wright is just outstanding. That was one of the great, besides Williams, draft picks we've had, So, but the offensive line is just, it's going to be tough. We thought last week was tough. Listen. They are. So, but we know that he can elude the rush, but we really, really, really don't want to have to worry about that, okay? So, I'm going to talk about the injuries real quick, and then we'll chit-chat a little bit. Now, these injuries are as of Friday morning, so it's only Wednesday and Thursdays. I'm doing the show early, so I won't see the injuries later. So, right now, number 53, Edwards, our linebacker, he broke his hand and he has a hamstring. Now, if he didn't have a hamstring problem, he'd be into the game with the broken hand because you've seen guys with the big clubs. And I got to tell you, when he's not playing, we're hurting. When he's back there with Edmonds, you've got Edmonds, Edwards, and Swell. They are great, but he has not practiced all week, so my guess is he might not play, and that's a big loss. We really, really need him. Brisker 9 was questionable. Rome questionable and Moore questionable. I believe at least Rome and Moore will probably play. Brisker, I think his was a shoulder, so I'm hoping he plays because we can't lose any more backfield guys with JJ and Gordon out. We just can't. Although number 15, Gardner Johnson, has stepped up, and we need him to continue to step up. But so here's the injuries. Let's pray that Edwards surprises us all and comes in. So to really win the game, first of all, you got to win my threes. My threes, penalties, 5 or less. You have to have at least 2 turnovers to help. And the offense has to avoid at all costs 3 and outs because they just hurt the offense, it hurts your defense, and it just boosts the other team. Because if they can do 3 and outs, boom, their offense is right back on the field, and so is your defense. So we got to avoid that, and we got to keep the penalties down to 5 or less. And last week we only had 3. And look how much it helped. Because if we had what we were averaging, 9, 10, 11 penalties prior to that, we wouldn't have won that game. And we won't win on Sunday if we have a lot of penalties. So they've got to be disciplined. Whatever they did last week, they've got to do it again. Okay? And the offense basically is Williams needs the offensive line to protect him. We know that every week. Give him more time to throw. Williams got to settle down. Maybe he needs to stand there 1 extra tick and believe in his offensive line to get those wide receivers. And when he throws to the wide receivers, you need to catch him. 14 OZ, which I believe he may not be starting because prior to that, he has had a good season, but he looked terrible last week. He dropped 3 very catchable passes. And some of these, I know that Cabe sometimes throws high, sometimes but I need our offense, our wide receivers to go get that ball, like our tight ends do. They go and get that ball. Go jump, do whatever, and be aware of your quarterback when he's in pocket. If you're covered, just keep running and pay attention. Wave them down if you can get free, but be aware. They're not really good at that, in my opinion, the wide receivers, I've seen teams where these guys are running around and then they break free and they wave to the quarterback and they get a big play. Something the Bears have to work on. And the other thing is, when Williams is throwing them, I would like to see more throws and get these wide receiver, tight ends, running backs, whoever you're throwing to, in stride. And then they get more yards. We're a little bit better than we have been in the past, but we need to get more because a lot of times we're catching them and they're down. And a lot of times they're first downs. But if you can catch them in stride, oh my gosh, you can make 20 or more yards, maybe even break it for a touchdown. So it's real important that they start doing that. And of course, the run game, again, you know how I feel. Run, 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 run. I felt they should have run way more in that New York game last week, and Ben pretty much alluded to that he did not call a good offensive game, and that was sure. But we got to get after their defense. If we can establish a consistent run on Sunday, it's only going to help Williams. Only because then they don't know what you're doing, and if you can get, Swift and Kyle Mungai to get going, it could do so much. So it's so important to continue to do that. The offensive line is important with that. We've been going in the right direction the last 4 weeks on the run. Prior to that, nothing. So please, we got to get that going. The defense, well, we know JJ it's his second year. He did not play at all last year. So to me, he's still a rookie and he's still got a lot. JJ McCarthy, he went to Michigan. I saw him play a lot. I've got very mixed feelings about whether this guy's going to make it in the NFL, but it's way too early. But the bottom line is he's been out most of the season. D has got to get in his face, like I always say. We got to sack him. If you can't actually sack him, make him uncomfortable. Make him make a mistake. Make him run around like they've been doing to Williams. He'll throw an interception. He'll do something stupid, but do not make it comfortable. It has to be uncomfortable the entire day. And because of our backfield, as I've said many times, it's so banged up and we're missing two vital guys. The D-line and the linebackers are just so much more important now because last year, the best part of our defense was the backfield. And even in those losses, those 10 straight losses, we were close in a lot of those games, and it was because of our backfield. But we're hurting so much. So the D-line, particularly, so important for them to stop the run, disrupt that quarterback, and then let the linebackers and the backfield disrupt the wide receivers. You got to stop that run. Do not let them get going. It'll be a long day if you do that. We've got to force our defense has got to force more 3 and outs on their offense, like I talked about, because it's just so positive if your defense can do a 3 and out because they get to go sit down, catch their breath, and your offense has a chance to come out and score some points. Like I say, our offense has got to avoid 3 and outs for the same reason, just opposite. So it's pretty simple. I'm not going to beat the dead horse on this, but you know what we got to do. It's simple, but I believe this is a must game. Of course, the season is not over if you don't win it. But with all the tough games we're coming up, again, let's see if I can remember off the top of my head. The next game is Pittsburgh. Then on a short week, Eagles. Then I believe it's Cleveland, Green Bay, 49ers, Green Bay, and Detroit at home, the last game. So very tough games coming up. And you say, well, Cleveland? Yeah, Cleveland, but they've got a very good defense. So you cannot, you can't underestimate any of these teams, especially in our division, because the 3 of us are tied, and Minnesota's on the bottom at 5-4. The rest of us are 6-3. I know people say, "Oh no, Green Bay's sick." Got the tie. They're 6-3. Okay, a tie is a loss. I don't care what anybody says. Nowadays, a tie is a loss. So it's tough. So if we want to keep up with and try to end on a 500 note, we got to start winning some of these really tough games. And we have not really beaten anybody really credible, except for my opinion, Dallas. So this is going to be interesting. But it's only going to get worse because after Minnesota, like I said, it's Pittsburgh. That douchebag Rodgers, man. I hope when we play him, our defense drinks a lot of energy drinks and just goes after him because he has said some really terrible things through the years about us, and now he's not, and he's on another team. And I'd sure like my defense to knock him down, knock him out of the game, whatever, and say, yeah, you can't disrespect the Chicago Bears anymore. And that's what we need to do, but that's another game. Let's get back to Minnesota. So that's what we need to do. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Those are the simple things. I gave you some statistics which make you realize that it's not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination because they've got a very good defense. So we've got to be on our toes. So I thought I'd end the show with a funny little story. I haven't really been telling my stories, or I've got a million of them. And it's about Minnesota. Back on October 9th, 2008, that was the year my husband had passed away. So my sister got really good tickets, and we went with two other friends. There was four of us, and we went to this game. It was probably the first time I had fun in 2008, and the score was 48-41. And the Bears won, and it was a crazy-ass game. We could not get up to go to the bathroom. Thank God they were delivering us beers, because every time somebody touched the ball, it seemed like either there was a turnover and the other team got it, or they scored. It was insane, and I'm not kidding. It was up and down the field all day. And both teams had 2 turnovers each. So you can imagine how crazy it was. And we had so much fun. That stadium was going nuts because it was just literally both teams scored in all 4 quarters, and it was insane. And I'll tell you who our quarterback was back in 2008. Kyle Orton. Remember him? He was our starting quarterback then. Our running back was Matt Forte. And our wide receiver was Marty Booker, which I've got a Marty Booker. He's one of my mini helmet autographs. And our tight end, remember Greg Olson? Now he's a commentator. He was a great year. He had a great career as a tight end, and I was actually happy when the Bears traded him to. I didn't want him to go, but they traded him. I forget who was our coach, and he didn't play tight end, so they traded him. And I was really happy because he had a very good career, and he's a good guy, and it worked out for him. So. But that was who was our running backs, our quarterbacks. I didn't look at defense because it didn't matter, but because there was no defense in that game by either team. So it was just so damn funny, and we had so much fun. I never laughed and clapped so much in a long time as we did then. So it was pretty cool. Let's hope the Bears win 48-10. I would really like that. I would really like on Sunday for it to be a blowout by the Bears, wouldn't you? Because these last 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, how many games, I told you, my eyebrows have now turned gray because of the Bears. They weren't gray when the season started. Now they are, because I as you can see, I can't, I'm all gray. So, there's no more room. So, but it is intense, right? And I would really like to have a nice, clean blowout by the Bears. Wouldn't that be fun? Kind of like what Detroit did us in week 2, right? So let's do that to Minnesota and have just a fun afternoon and just be partying and cheering your friends with the beers and everything else, right? It's in Minnesota, so you can't rely on Soldier Field fans, but let's scream. Put on your... It is funny, but... Here in December, I'm in Vegas, as you know, I moved to Vegas, and it's still been pretty warm, although it's about to change. Tomorrow, supposedly we're going to have rain for 2 days. Yeah, but it's going to drop into the 50s and 60s and 50s. Yuck. So maybe I could start wearing my jersey, but to this point it was too warm to wear my jerseys. So what I did was I have 9 jerseys, but I pull out Dick Butkus and Walter Payton, and I lay them on the couch next to me, and I talk to them the whole game. When we're on defense, I'm like, Dick, come on now. Come on. And then when we're on offense, I'm yelling at Walter. And when I pray to the football gods, because God's busy. God's busy. So pray to the football gods. Just a suggestion, you guys, and it might help, okay? Because God's not listening, but the football gods, that's their job. So, anyways, on that note, I pretty much gave you the roundup. Let's go Bears. Let's bring us home a victory. You know, I would just like a nice, solid win, right? Going into these next how many games where I just named, because they're tough. So, go Bears. And as always, please be kind. I end my show this way. Be kind. Love one another. Times are tough. Let's just stick together. You know, there's a lot of good people out there, and I've run into several of them recently, and it does give me hope that there are good people out there all the time. It really does. It's made me believe in people again, because I got pretty negative for a while, and it's hard. You know what? You could do that. But smile. It's so much easier to smile and laugh and talk to people. Less wrinkles. I'm just saying. So be happy, love one another, stick together. Times are tough. Bear fans, we rock. We always stick together. And Bears, 48-10. That's what I want. With you coming home with a victory Monday, because who does not want to hear that song again from me? The song that just keeps on giving. So on that note, I'll see you Monday, hopefully for a victory Monday. And as always, oh, wait a minute. What? You forgot. Oh, yeah, I did. Thank you all for watching me. Please let everybody know this old lady does know a little bit about football. I know a lot about football, and I'm fun, okay? Fun. Remember, a father's face and a woman's body just isn't fair, but you know what? I've lived with it, and I smile a lot. So my dad was a handsome man. So on that note, now keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby.